All right, guys, today we're going to be talking about Mo Foda. He just won the Detroit Pro, and people are asking a serious question. Is this guy actually a future threat for the Arnold top 5? Was the Detroit lineup actually strong? Are pro shows getting watered down? There are more pro cards given out more than ever. And some of the lineups honestly look like Nationals super heavyweight class 15 years ago. So breaking it down today, welcome to IRON OGs. I'm Armon Adibi with Cooks King Kamali. How you guys are doing today?
Oh, we're good.
What's up? Good morning.
Good morning. Dude, I had this guy before we start. I had this guy come to my house two nights ago. So he was wearing an 80. I just left my house. Me and my son, we're about to go out of town. So me and my son, I took him to go to the barbershop. And as soon as I left my house, my wife had Chris, you've been in my house, so it's like right on the corner.
Yeah.
So we left, and as soon as I left, my wife was sweeping some stuff out of the garage, taking the cat. We took in this like stray cat we're taking care of, and this guy from ADT, he has an ADT shirt on. He comes, the red Jeep pulls in. We saw on camera. He parks in the parking where you parked, Chris, the day when you came over, and knock at the door, knock, and then doorbell rang twice. Okay, this is Friday night around 9 o'clock. Okay, and it's not ADT, right? So I'm not there, and my wife's like calling me and texting me, and I'm like, yeah, do not answer the door. Obviously, she knows better. So this guy's like, hey, I just want to let you know your garage door is open. After he, rang the door a couple times. Of course, we took all camera. Obviously, he's wearing a fake ADT shirt. They don't drive their personal vehicles. They come usually in the ADT thing. But obviously, he was scaling something to rob the place, come back to rob the place, or break into cars, and so I called up my detective friend. He's not in this area, but he's like, yeah, there's a lot of those that happen. They'll do that. And so luckily my wife, when she heard the knock on the door, she closed the garages, and then he was, oh, just letting you know your garage door is open. Then he got back in it, and then his body language and everything was really weird. And then he got back in his red Jeep and then just drove away. So the camera couldn't see the license plate, but people got to be careful out there, man. Crazy world. Crazy
Desert
world.
Eagles. That's why I have a Desert Eagle.
Yeah. I
Lights out.
We got some weapons here. So
lights out. There's no question.
If I was home, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know if I would have went out there and confronted him and made him stay and until the cops come. Maybe have beat him up a little bit. So until the cops showed up, but yeah, I don't like that. Just someone coming to my house trying to like
do yourself a favor. Put one of those don't tread on me flags right on your front porch. That's a message to everybody right there.
I already have a sign, no soliciting. So
put the don't tread on me flag right there, man. That's giving a message to everybody out there.
Yeah, I know statistically speaking, if you have a big dog and one of the aggressive breeds like Cane Corso or Doberman, things like that, statistically speaking, that is the overwhelming deterrent for this kind of stuff. Because they know dogs don't give a shit about guns or knives, bro. They'll just tear after people, and you just minimize the risk by going to the next house.
Yeah. It's pretty safe so far. I've never had an incident here, but it was just like, okay, like he's probably not coming back because he saw the camera because he realized the Ring camera and all that. And he was like, oh, so guys, be careful out there. This stuff happens all the time, home invasions and all that stuff. So it's scary. All right, guys, the Detroit Pro. What did you guys think about the lineup? King, Chris,
you go.
Hey, these are interesting conversations, right? Because they are just what they are. You can compare the quality of various generations, but I don't think that we're aligned to do that. Look, the winner, Mo himself, it's pretty good. I have particular bias toward individuals with structure, and but for the lineup, I think he clearly in the open class was the dominant physique for the day, both from a muscularity perspective and being in shape. Being was tight, it was good. So these smaller shows historically also, I mean, to be fair, They don't typically draw the highest level guys, right? Because they're the higher level guys, top 5 or top 10, maybe Olympia ranking guys are going to save themselves for some of the higher paying opportunities, if you will. And you know, if you try to put yourself through a European tour type of structure leading into the Arnold Classic of the UK, then, you know, there's a higher probability you don't come in right. So with that being said, you know, all the guys looked relatively good. I think he was the best. It was the best of who showed up.
King, is the talent pool getting thinner?
I don't think it's the talent pool. I think it's the criteria that the kids are going for now. They're going for fullness. It's obvious they're going for fullness. I'm going to approach this a different way. I'm going to ask Chris Cook a question. Chris, could Mo beat you at the USAs when you won?
Nope.
Thank you. I have nothing else to say. That's it.
Yeah.
That's my point right there. I just asked Chris Cook at the USAs, when you won the USAs, could Mo have beaten you? And no, I think Mo would have been in the top 5, but he couldn't. The level of conditioning that we were trying to attain is different. Now, everyone's going to sit there and say, okay, but you know, Mo and King, you're retired. Okay, I'm going to prove my point right now. They had a pose down at the end with Wesley and with Mo. Wesley blew Mo out of the water. Let's be realistic here. Yes, Mo was bigger, but conditioning, shape, overall, everything, Wesley would have won. Well, and that's just the classic guy taking care of the open guy. This is what we're talking about when we say 90s, 2000s conditionings as of today. When you compare them together, this is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of these classic guys, they need to go to open. They need to take a year off, put on some more size, and go to open. Because let's be real, who watches really the classic other than people that are competing in classic and want to be classic people? People go to see the open bodybuilders. So a lot of these classic guys, they look amazing, dude. They're peeled out of their mind. They're hard. They have great structures. Put on slowly, little muscle, go into that open, and they'll start crushing it. You know, I want to talk about Blessing. Okay, I'll pull up a vid here in a sec. But Blessing, look, this is a lot of these guys' names I didn't know, right? Yeah, I didn't know a lot of these names. A lot of people didn't. I mean, even people who are doing like play-by-plays, they didn't even know their names because they were, you know, turned pro at whatever U.S. Nationals. That's why I always say, who turned pro at the show? We don't know. A lot of these guys were in the show, so they all look good. They all look good. They all look good. Don't get me wrong, but listen, you're posing. I mean, I pose better at my second, local level show than these guys. They don't know how to pose, and I don't know. I just don't know why they don't learn to pose. It's just like that's one of the most important things. You diet, you take all the gear, you do all this stuff, and they look great, and they're pushing the limits today more than ever. Why not have a posing coach and practice your posing at least an hour a day? These guys aren't doing it. I don't know about you, Keith, but I have a hard time getting my competitors to just pose at all. Like, I mean, they want to, like, oh, it's 4 weeks out. Do I need to start my posing? I said, I told you start posing 16 weeks out, you know? So, I mean, the posing's got to get better.
Yeah, posing and stage presence, your transitions. You know, I was watching the Cutler podcast, the Cutler cast, and he was actually making a good point. He was saying that a lot of people are forgetting the transitions. And he was talking about how he told Nick Walker 1,000 times, when you go from the front double bicep or the side front lat spread into the side shots, you can't relax and go. You have to be in a transitional motion. It is almost like a dance. You're up there. You're doing this thing. A robotic. For me, it was always like, okay, I'm a robot. I got to go from this one to this one. They're watching me the whole time because they're going to pick you apart. They're going to take a picture of you relaxed and they're going to post it and say, the bubble gut, bubble. That you can't let them. You're up there for 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Suck it up.
Yeah.
Suck it up.
Completely agree. I think the value even of the transitional and, you know, the time on stage to prejudge relative to the value of you doing a routine. The routine is like the icing on the cake. And don't get me wrong, like you had the King Kamalis and the marvelous Melvins that could just create a tremendous amount of entertainment value. But from a judging perspective, the time on stage and how you manage every moment, even if you're out of comparison, sitting on the side, managing your gut, keeping your composure, keeping your legs separated so that every waking moment that they see you at your best. I would even stand up there and I would never stand just to the side. I would stand at a slight angle. I utilize actually some of the classic physique type of posing in those situations so that I always looked good and keeping it tight. And I would practice this so that I had abdominal control, right? Which is, we've all been there, bro. Like, I feel like I've been kicked in the gut after being on stage like that because you're holding that gut in for so long. But it's absolutely critical. And you're right. I watched that same video that Jay was talking about with Nick. And in the prejudge, we pointed that out. Nick's ability to retain, then hold that gut in at first for the prejudge was one of the, I think, the key elements to his placing at the Arnold Classic, because he looked good in all transitions. He did a much better job of that. Night show was a little tougher. He was a little fuller of obviously eating a little bit more. It gets a little harder, but nonetheless, as you're describing, that time posing and sitting, even in the relaxed positions, is critical. Absolutely critical. Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy says, I think the timing of the show was a factor in the lineup. Maybe the show would do better later in the summer. No, I mean, the show's a show. It's right after the Arnold. These guys coasting right to after the Arnold, they can do it. You know, it's not the same prize money, but listen, hey, this show's probably got one of the best lighting of all the shows out of the year. You know, it's like they got the black backdrop, and it makes the guys look a lot better. I mean, you can actually see the detail and everything. I'm gonna put up a video real quick of just a few of them posing. We've all seen it, but for anybody who hasn't seen it.
Go! Go! Yeah! Let's go! Stay up! No! Get up! Stay up! Go! Forward!
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, so I mean, this guy asked earlier about Blessing's abdominal. He had trouble controlling it, right? So Blessing got really this past off season before, he got really fat, and it was over the top. He didn't even get that heavy. You remember, we all saw the pictures, Chris. I don't know if you saw the pictures at that time, but he was really, really fat. But he was asking how Blessing got second. Well, the lineup, Blessing got second based out of the lineup. His abdominal is a lot more distant than it used to be. I remember when he was working with Farah, he went from, I think, Chad Nichols, and then he went to George Farah. And I think I talked to George about it. George said he lowered all his gear dramatically because Chad had him on a little more. And then he had a really good look with George, and his waist was, looked good at that time. And then at this show, his waist was pretty out there. I mean, I'm not sure if it had to do to how heavy he got last offseason. It wasn't necessary for him to get that heavy and that much body fat, in my opinion. Can you remember the pictures, Chris? I'm not sure if you saw them, but
I still think that he's a social media star. You know, he's a good bodybuilder, but he could be making a lot more money. You get a Hollywood agent. You have that look. Go to Hollywood. Do something else other than this, because you're killing yourself for $2,000 paychecks when you could be making $2 million doing other things. I like him. I've said that from the very beginning. I like his personality. I like what he does, and I like what he brings. But I just think that he's always going to be in that second tier. I mean, he's a freak. He's obviously a freak, but the conditioning wise, I know that look. That look is pure genetics. That's just him with pure genetics. And getting that fat in the off season, his heart is taking a pounding. I mean, you have to understand what it means to get up to 300, 305, 310 pounds and then bringing it back down to like 250, 245. That is incredible strain in your heart. So be careful with that. That's my advice.
You know, he has that knee issue too. A lot of people ask about his knee. What's wrong with his knee? And he had some injury, I think, in surgery when he was a young kid. So he's always had that knee issue. Does it affect his leg training? I think so. I mean, even when he started, you know, bodybuilding, I remember he was wearing these sleeves all the time, and he was limited. And then I even spoke to Blessing. We were going back and forth for a couple of weeks talking about maybe doing something together. And I said, hey man, I kind of said, you know, we're talking about his outer quad sweep he was trying to bring up. And I kind of mentioned something for him to do, and that freaked him. He was like, oh no, there's no way I'd ever do that to my quad sweep. And I'm like, hey man, well, a lot of these guys are doing that. It would help you, because that's what's lacking in your physique. The outer quad sweep is not there, and it's hurting you a lot because you have a really crazy big upper body, but the legs are a problem. And you know, I get it. When you have knee problems, it sucks because you can't train legs like we've talked about before. You just can't train legs how you need to. He's pushed it hard. I've been watching his videos, so maybe he's feeling better, you know, his knee or whatever, but he has it goes into, it has something, I don't know what the exact injury is. We had him on RX before, and we talked about it, but I don't remember the exact thing. I'll maybe reach out to him and maybe try to have him on here eventually. But, you know, I don't know what you guys' thoughts about that, but I mean, I think Mo looked better here than he did at the Arnold. Would you guys agree?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, with regard to the abdominal thing, it's a very tricky thing with, I knew a lot of pros, that really didn't do abs anymore, right? Once they kind of got to that pro status, just as a function of trying to control the thickness around their abdominal wall. I mean, and their serratus, and you know, whether that worked or not is kind of, you know, a mystery, to be truthful. I mean, I know just from personal experience, right? Like I've had pictures produced of myself during prep or different things where the food that I ate and that the shit that sits inside my gut had a profound effect on my ability to suck that in and create that waistline that I was able to do, and had a reputation for. And so in preps, a lot of times, man, if they got their carb wrong or had some bloating, there's a lot of weird kind of, that can, you know, because you extend that thing by like a half an inch or an inch, and the dramatic effect that it has under the lights can make it look really, really crazy. So it's tough. I mean, he's not exactly the most streamlined waist guy out there, right? So he's a bit blocky in that area anyway. So just that small adjustment can, you know, it can, like, whether or not it was because he was real fat in the off season, I don't know, man. Dude, I've seen some guys goes from like crazy fat to like amazingly shredded. So it just, you know, I'm not sure that that's 100% correlated, you know.
No, you're right.
Chris, I think
the quintessential example of what you're talking about was Nasser El Sambadi.
Yeah.
Nasser was a legitimate 320, 330 pound guy in the off season. When he got in shape, he controlled his midsection. We never heard anything bad about Nasser's midsection. Even Arnold at the Arnold Classic used to commend him and say, that's a real impressive for that guy that massive. You know why? Because he practiced. You have to practice. You have to have that abdominal control. You have to do your vacuums in the morning correctly.
Right.
Do it correctly. You got to keep it tight. You got to wear a weight belt when you train, nice and tight. Milos is a big advocate of that. It just takes training and some type of common sense.
I think a lot of guys getting heavy too. It's different, King. Like, let's say when you got heavy, or Chris, when you got heavy, a lot of guys, the insulin GH comes in a factor when they're putting on all this weight too. They're pushing the insulin and GH at really heavily doses. You know, 20 IUs of GH a day, 100 IUs of insulin a day. That's going to affect you, and the swelling, the abdominal tube. Plus, when you're cramming all that food in, that food, when you're cramming in all that food and you're using insulin, it's shuttled into the muscles too. But yeah, your stomach, you know, your abs are muscle too, so it's shuttling everything everywhere. So I think the addition to the excess of growth hormone, the excess use of growth hormone and insulin, is a contributing factor too. I don't think there's anything wrong with using either of those, but I'm saying the excess amount a lot of these guys use today, starting out at 10 IUs, it's and then going up to 20. Like the typical top pro dose today is starting about 20 IUs of GH a day. Whether or not they're getting legit, GH, and a lot of these guys aren't, because I talked to them. A lot of them, they're not getting prescription legit real GH. They're getting, the cheap stuff that you can get like a couple $100s for a kit. And is that the same? No, it's not the same, because I've tried it before and it's not the same as taking, the farm grade GH. But some of them are, because I know that some of them are, and that they are taking legit, 15, 20 IUs of pharmaceutical grade GH day. And can you go back to like, how could they handle that, right? Like, your hands, go numb, you can't hold dumbbells. They just work themselves up to it, and they eventually get there. They might back down for a little bit and then push it forward again, but they're getting there. And a lot of them are taking real pharma grade GH. And one of my ex-clients, I had to let him go because he was doing things I wasn't telling him to do, and he was taking like triple of stuff what I was telling him to do. And he was taking, I said, man, all this GH you're taking, it's going to have a lot of really bad effects on you. And then today he's like, man, you're right. Like everything grew on me. My nose is like triple the size. And he's already Arab, but he's like, my nose is triple the size and everything is just a lot bigger. As I told you, bro, like in his breathing and everything like that. And I think when you push that much GH, you're getting into a dangerous level, because growth hormone by itself, I think it's amazing. It's great, to take long-term, smaller amounts, bump it up while you're prepping for a show. That's fine. But the excess amounts, 20 plus IUs, I just don't think it's needed. I mean, Ronnie, I remember, was using, the whole bottle of Serostim a day, which that's 18 IUs. And I remember that's what Chad had him doing, because Ronnie came over to our gym when we worked out at, and he had a guy named Herman he was getting a second eye from at the time too. And Herman was kind of giving him some advice at the time too. And we go back to, we want to get Chad on here, King. So, I mean, let's try to get him on here so we can talk about everything. But Ronnie had his list, and we asked Ronnie, are you taking all of this? He said, no, I'm absolutely not. I'm taking half of it. So he was taking half of that and eating probably half the food that was on his program. But Ronnie was a genetic freak. So, we heard that from Ronnie. It was Ronnie there and about 5 of us, and this guy named Herman that was helping Ronnie with some other stuff to help his calves and some other body parts. And he showed us what the list of his food and gear, and it was pretty excessive. And so Ronnie, backed it down a little bit. But like I said, King, Chad had you do certain things, and everybody's not the same. Some people don't need that much. Other people's, they lack the genetic aspect of it, so they push other things harder, and they think they're going to get a certain look. But getting big in a 3-year period that should take 10-year period, it's just going to have a different look.
Yeah. Yeah, and you talk about all the food that Chad had us eating. It was too much, to the point where I finally learned my lesson when I went into Ronnie's room. I think it was at the Olympia or the Arnold Classic, and we didn't have Vitargo, we didn't have carb limit back then, so we just had to eat it. And it was to the point where you hated the fact that it's time to eat again, because you're gonna get that feeling. I wouldn't even taste it. I would just put the food in my mouth and plug my nose and try to swallow it. I went to Ronnie's room just to see, because I needed some type of energy. Whenever I saw Ronnie, he gave me energy. I'm like, fuck, man, that's Mr. Olympia.
Yeah. He had that ability.
I didn't see him. So I went to his room and I saw half the food in the trash. I'm like, hell no, I ain't eating all that food. So, okay, so I'm not the only one. So I went back to my room. I'm like, I can't. It's just, and then you wonder why they used to mess with us about our stomachs, because we had to eat all the food.
Yeah. Plus you're drying out at the same time, dude. It's dry. I mean, it's, I don't know, man. I'd love to publish a video one day of that prep. Like people, the common person, even many in relatively high levels of bodybuilding don't know that level. And I think that's why you see a lot of these folks coming in the shape that you do, or the lack of shape that you do, because they just cannot push to that dreadful level, you know. And that's exactly what it is. It's really, it's not fun. And I mean, I don't know about you, like for me, there was points where you're questioning, like, dude, you feel like you're going to die. Right.
Yeah.
And I would lay naked in one show, I was laying naked in front of the air conditioner because, you know, taking diuretics, you have no body temperature regulation. You're just trying to stuff yourself. And I would get up, I'd eat, pose for Chris or whoever, and just go back to laying naked on the bed in front of the air conditioning just so I could stay alive. And it's phenomenal.
So I'm going to give an example. I'm not going to go to too much details, but just so people understand, one of my a standard Chad King carb up meal 2 days before the show: 2 packs of fruit and cream oatmeal, 1 banana, 5 dates, 16 ounces of chicken breast, 12-ounce sweet potato, and a sip of water.
Yeah.
I want that, you know, think about what, and if you're taking the insulin, you have to add half a can of pie filling. Okay, apple pie filling.
Yeah.
Think about what I just said. Imagine eating that every 2.5 to 3 hours.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah,
and here's the thing about that
sitting there, and because when you start to carb back up, we had a 4-day depletion: Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. I would completely go to zero, deplete, and then Wednesday morning we start loading back up. The first thing we did was hit the insulin, and then I would drink this much orange juice, which was like heaven. I mean, it's like 400 orgasms at once. That first bit of orange juice, and you savor it. You start like you're like this. You're sucking on your finger, but then the meals come. The first 2 are not that bad. Oh my God! Starting from the third one, you're dreading it. Looking at that pie filling, and you're almost like, you know, those sort of strumming videos where you smell it and you start. It's the same thing. You just go like this, and you just like, oh my God, I got to eat again. I got to eat. Now they'll just drink the Vitargo. They'll drink the carb.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. So let me ask you this, King, and I because I want to give my opinion, but I want to hear yours first about. You just said, in addition to all those carbs that you had to eat, 16 ounces of chicken. Okay. And we're talking, like you said, somewhere between Wednesday and Saturday, right, for the show. Looking back at that now, you just said you're going to throw half of it away, right? You're probably not going to throw the carbs away because those are at least manageable. There's some level of liquidity or squishiness. Like it's not like you're eating dry oatmeal. You're eating one that's prepared, so you can at least kind of choke it down. But became my argument in the later years. I'm like, why am I eating 16 ounces of chicken? And I'm not. It's right. It is shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people have learned that you don't need to. So that whole aspect of like when you're carbing up, like I usually lower clients' protein. Like, so if they're eating like whatever 10 ounces on their diet, I lower it to like 3 ounces, 4 ounces if they're carbing up. You don't need all that meat in your stomach. What matters is the carb. You're trying to fill out in your glycogen, right? So eating all that, even when Hani was prepping me for nationals one year, like he was having me, each meal was like 10 to 12 ounces of meat and like 2 to 3 cups of white rice. And I'm like, Hani, I like literally I can't even force this down anymore. He's like, get the food down. You got to get the food down. I barely made heavies right on the dot. And then because I remember I didn't eat that whole day just so I could make the heavy. And then he had me eating like crazy. I'm like, listen, you got to work with the client too, because there's a certain place where you don't want your client not listening to you. So like Ronnie, just throwing away the food, not even listening to Chad, right? So you got to say, hey, how are you handling the meals? Are you able to get these meals down? Not just, hey, here, do this. You got to like communicate back and forth. And even like I said, Ronnie, before that, while he was prepping for these Olympians and stuff like that, he would come out to the gym, and it was called The Gym, and it was in the Circle in Fort Worth. And he was like, I'm doing half of this. And he wasn't telling Chad he was doing half of it. He was just doing half of everything because It's like, look, I look like this. Why do I need to be doing this other half where it's just going to make me more distended? I'm going to feel more sick. And I've seen some programs, and over the years, Chad has got criticized for being a little extreme with certain people. And I remember Dominic Cardone, the year he turned pro, 2014 Nationals. I remember I went back to that Nationals after 2 years out from double shoulder surgery just for fun. And I remember I was Don was heavyweight. And we talked after that show on a podcast. And Dom was like, Armon, I literally didn't know if I was going to live through that show. Like the things we did at the end, I didn't know if I was actually going to live. He had several different dangerous diuretics. I mean, but listen, when you compete in bodybuilding, it's not the healthiest thing. People have to understand, and you've got to be comfortable. Whoever you're listening to, I think, needs to explain and lay out, like, hey, if we're going to do this, here are some risks we are taking to attain a certain look. And he was pretty freaked out after that. He won his pro card at that show, but he was pretty freaked out about what the things he had to do at that show.
Of course.
I think he went on.
Chris, going back to the chicken thing you just mentioned, that was the worst part. That was the absolute worst part. What you and we had the George Foreman grill, which didn't get tastier. It was just and that smell. Your room smelled like meat. It was awful.
I will not eat chicken off that step. There's a particular smell that you know from that damn George Foreman grill, man. I will never again, bro. It's terrible, and it glazed it would glaze the outside of that chicken to make it so damn dry, bro. It's like eating beef jerky. It was absolute freaking torture, man.
The chicken was absolute murder. Getting to the beef was a little bit different because I'm a Texas barbecue guy. If you grill it and burn it, I'll eat it. I like everything extra crispy on the grill. So I would just make my meat crispy, and I'll be like a freaking animal eating it. But the chicken, nope. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I just thought it was completely unnecessary. Like literally, I'm not trying to support muscle at this point, right? We're just trying to fill the muscle with glycogen, which requires carbohydrates and a little bit of, some regulated amount of fluid. And that was it. It was, I just viewed the protein literally as a fucking waste, right? Like, it's kind of like if I'm taking insulin, right? And I'm starting to go hypo, dude, I'm not going to pair it with chicken or any kind of, I'm not going to have a protein shake, bro. I'm doing a straight candy bar. I'm doing sugar. I'm doing whatever it takes in order to bind that insulin up. And that's in essence what we were trying to do. And I think they lost an understanding of some of these. I mean, I'd be interested in seeing how these guys are framing it now, because I'd venture to say that it's more in line with what we're talking about now. Because they've gotten smarter, and this whole abdominal thing is that you have to contend to it with these big open class guys. So
Well, I think it's to the point where, we're talking about the transitions and then transitioning and controlling it. They can't control it because they're pushing so much food and add the insulin on top of that. And a lot of times, I remember I used to cut growth like 7 to 10 days out. A lot of guys are running growth all the way through because it keeps that fullness. They want the look, though. I mean, it goes back to the judging criteria. These guys are doing what the judges are telling them to do. It's not their fault. A certain look they're having. The judges are like, this is the look we want. Hey, we don't want if you come looking like in the 90s, you're not going to place well, right? So they're wanting this big, full skin about to explode, full look where the striations don't matter anymore. You rarely see shoulders with striations through them. I mean, it's very rare you see a competitor with striations just all the way through their shoulders and all that, and they're putting a lot of, too much gear in there or whatever the case may be, side enhancement oil, but it gets a little blurred. This guy said no one in the 90s had bubble guts like they do today. I think it could be related to how they train legs versus now. No, I mean, a lot of the guys in the 90s, some of the guys in the 90s, they had some distension issues.
Yeah, they did. They did. I mean,
John Pierre on. We talked about it when he had issues too. That
was really when the Dorian Yates era is when it began. It began. I think Dorian would say he think it was the introduction of insulin that did that, because you think about insulin and what it does with regard to the volume of carbohydrates, right? I mean, just without insulin, you consuming, let's just be radical. Let's say consuming 1,000 grams of carbohydrates without insulin is the most inefficient thing in the world, right? Whereas you could consume, 400 to 600 with the same efficiency, if you will, right? But the point being is that the 90s did have this problem, but I think combined with it was less probably, but then you had, like we were talking about earlier, the posing element. It was like a culture that was ingrained in us about, I would spend every day minimum 2 hours in that posing room, sweating it. It was a part of my cardio regimen, right? And I imagine, King, you did the same.
After finishing my workouts, there was a specific mirror that I always went to.
Yeah.
I had my training partner go sit there, and while he's eating his food or drinking his shake or whatever, and I'll just like count to 30. No matter how much I complain, no matter how much I huff and puff, count to 30 and then call the next pose. And we did that. And then I was blessed, thank the universe, to have Fairfax Hackley, who was right down the street. And he was just the meanest mother, what in the world, no respect, just absolutely crucified me. And at the end, I look back now, I'm like, thank God I had someone like that who would actually run me through the ringer like that, take me through the fucking meat grinder. And then, because that just toughened it up, that's what we need.
Well, a lot of the coaches they're using too, because I've spoke to a lot of these guys about potentially working with some of them, and they come from a lot of coaches. They're telling them, "Hey, you don't have to do this much, or you can get away with just only doing this." And they like to hear that. It's easier, right? So they take the easier way out. They're not getting in there. So I'm not saying that. A lot of these classic guys, their posing's on point. Their posing's amazing. Their routines are great, right? You guys see it. The classic, they're on point. Like their posing's great.
It's like I think the discipline that we're talking about almost remains in that division to some degree. I don't know. It's kind of odd culturally. You can see it's different.
I used to tell Bob Bonham, and Bob Bonham was very, very smart, and he was the owner of Strong and Shapely. They had a posing room. He started charging $20 an hour. He was putting an extra $1,000 in his pocket every week, man.
Yeah,
$20. You want to rent the posing room, and then you go, you sign the sheet at the entrance of the gym. You got your time allotted out. What time you go in there, you practice, you come out, and it was packed. Every time you would see that sheet, it would be stacked with people, and you're making an extra $1,000 in your pocket. Come on, man. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, for sure.
So when the years have gone on too, I remember back in 2014, when I was training people out of Destination, I would do posing classes every Tuesday, Thursday, and it was only $25 a person. So you get people in there, and about an hour and a half, and you had I had people from beginners to pros in there, and it would be packed. And as the years went by, the posing classes got less and less people in there, because they're just not practicing as much. And I get it, you've got new people coming in telling these guys what to do, and they're not telling them how important posing is. They're not telling them, hey, you need to get a massage therapy at least once, twice a week. They're not telling them that. How many clients they're not getting massages all. Dude, getting deep tissue therapy is a must if you're going to compete at a top level.
Looks like we lost him, huh?
What's that?
I lost you for a sec there.
No, he's back.
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah. So, the whole posing, it is what it is. These guys got to get better at it. And the distension thing goes back to, someone said earlier, Jay said, do as much as you can afford. I think he's referring to when Jay said that as the growth hormone. So I remember when Matt Jensen came on the scene, that was Dallas McCarver's coach. That's how Matt Jensen name blew up. And I said, listen, I got shit for it a while back. I said, Matt Jensen's going to come in. He's going to, get a lot of people sick and not well. And then he's going to dip out and be like, oh, you're just hating Matt because he's got this client. I'm like, dude, he got this client he was paying for their gear. He had some of the guys living with him. His wife was cooking all their meals. I'm like, dude, I would never have some client live with me. My wife cook all their meals and pay for their gear to get that client. But once you get that big client's name, then everybody starts rushing to you like you got the next big secret. King, we saw that when we spoke about Boss of Outlaw guy. he had the whole entire roster of every pro show pretty much. And now they slowly dwindled away and they realized, oh, he doesn't have some secret. It's just basically what we've been doing, but he took on so many people. You can't pay attention to that many people at that top level and have that many people in that many show in the same show. It's just not possible. You're going to pay attention to your guys that are already in the running, right? You're going to pay attention to those. And as you work your way down, they get less attention, right? It's just the way it goes. So,
yeah, that's fair.
Mo, at the end of the show, in his winning speech, he spoke briefly about the whole Martin situation. He blamed the media, which is a joke. When do people take responsibility for their own actions? Okay, so I think we beat this horse to death, but taking a look at it, this whole Martin situation turned about. It wasn't just the thing on stage, guys. Okay, so people need to know it wasn't just the thing on stage. This has been actions for years leading up in his behavior to that point and getting second chances, and then turned around when he said, hey, I hope you guys are happy I lost all my sponsors. Then turning that role into like, I'm the victim role, which I don't like that at all. Like playing I'm the victim now. I want sympathy from all you guys. I lost all my sponsors. Poor me, right? Take responsibility for what you said. Hey, if you don't want to apologize, Nick, fine, you don't have to apologize. But when you're saying sorry, like we said before, if he lost all his sponsors, was he going to say sorry? No, right? You guys agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I think we've talked about that enough, man.
That's what I said. We beat it to death. But
let him go to Arnold, Europe, and let him do what he's got to do. I hope he learned his lesson. That's it.
His name's on the list, but I'm not sure if he's doing it. I think the last thing he said was he's taking a break from social media and he's just gonna like go to Mars because his nickname's Martian. Go to Mars and take off the time he needs to improve. But then he continued to make another social media post after that. So you're telling us you're leaving social media and then you make another long post after that. But I don't think he's doing UK. His name's on the list, but we'll see if he shows up or not, King, you know.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what we said last time. What do you mean he's not doing it? He signed a contract. You can't just not show up to a show because you don't feel like it or because you got your feelings hurt because of the internet. You signed a contract. You got to show up. I don't know, man. You guys tell me what happened to contracts. When I signed a contract with Muscle Tech, I was like, okay, I'm legally binded to this. I have to do this. I got to make X amount of appearances. I got to do this. I got to do that. What happened to those things? What happened to contracts?
People don't care.
Well,
I had a contract
I'd
with
imagine,
my clients.
Yeah, I'd imagine there's some kind of there's a clawback of some sort. If you sign a contract and if you don't do it, then you're gonna pay in one form or another. I mean, that's the whole nature of the business. You know, everyone's got to lock themselves up. You know, the promoters and such, they're banking on these guys, these ranked guys to show up, right? And you know, that's how it is a business at the end of the day. And you know, at the end of the day, also there's, you know, I think something major that many people seem to forget these days is like the word is your bond, man. If you say you're gonna show up, right? And you know, for goodness sakes, man, barring some kind of obvious, you know, some kind of physical ailment or you know, something keeping you from doing that. Obviously, you don't want to risk your life, but you know, hey man, you show up. It's what you said you're going to do. It's what you got paid to. So
absolutely.
Yeah. You know, Steve Weinberger, he talked about the whole situation. He said, you know, Martin will be okay. He'll come back. He'll be fine. And I think he will. You know, Martin basically said he lost all his sponsors. He has no obligation to be on social media, but he's on that list. We'll see if he shows up. Guys, comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Is Martin going to show up or not? We don't know. His name's on the list. It's not canceled out yet. I'm not sure if he had a conversation with Steve behind the scenes saying, and they came to maybe agreement. And then come time the show, he won't be there. We'll see. But guys, let us know what you think down below. Is he going to show up or not? You know, people's going into the whole Ronnie. Ronnie had a massive dissension watching the documentary of him taking a police vest off. Of course, Ronnie at the end of his career, the dissension got more out of control. That's when he was pushing almost 300 on stage, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that was Ronnie. Ronnie could kind of get away with that because everything else looked so crazy, right? Nobody really at that time gave Ronnie was really hard on him for his distension. I mean, that's Ronnie Coleman. He's from another planet. Look, he might have some distension, but that came with all the other freaky craziness in the physique. I don't know. I don't think we'll ever really see it again on the Olympia stage. I don't know about what you guys' thoughts on that with Ronnie.
Yeah, Ronnie's the greatest ever.
Yeah, by far. And I think distension there's levels to that game, and you know, I don't think anybody would argue with what they got to see out of Ronnie. And what the biggest year he showed up, I think, at 298, right? And it's like, man, you would know better than me, King, which year it was. I mean, he was and that was the year that everybody, yeah, and everyone, he still won, but everyone was like, all right, buddy, look, man, you need to try to pull it back a little bit, and he did. But I'm going to tell you this, for all of us bodybuilder fanatic lovers, like I still liked what I saw. I don't care. Honestly, I was just like, it's just everywhere, to the point you're just like, dude, that is freaking awesome. So you get both. I mean, there's no way to completely maintain that really, really trim midsection whenever you come with that level of muscle. It just isn't going to happen, man. I don't know. I take it. I accept it. There's just, you know, the fortunate, unfortunate element is that's that's where genetics comes glaring out, right? Like some people can still get it, but look really good. And others just, they're so square or boxy in that abdominal area that it just looks terrible. It just sucks for them, man.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah.
Who started the trend of pointing your toes outward in the front poses to flare the quad sweeps, like Nick Walker does and Hottie too? So should judges score the guys down or tell them not to stop? Okay, so I know that started. Okay, so when I flew out and I saw Hani in 2010, I believe, and trained with him, we went over supposing, and I posed like I normally do, and I was like had my legs together like everybody used to do, right? And he had me put my legs apart and my toes outward. So I think Hani might have had started a lot of guys doing that, because I think that's the time that the posing started kind of transitioning to, you know, trying to give him that X factor. So, okay, if I put my feet out further and I point my toes out, you know, maybe if you don't have the best quad sweep, you're showing your adductors more or whatever the case may be. But that started back, 2010, 11. So I don't know if you guys remember when that started, but I don't like it. The whole legs far apart, like you're riding a horse, and then the arms got bigger, like the whole, putting your arms wider and wider up too. That whole like riding a horse look.
For me, it was Branch. I started noticing it with Branch. Branch came out and started doing that, and I think a lot of people, because Branch was so popular, and he was the people's champ and all that. I think that it just grew from there. I'm not saying he started it, but I remember, my memory tells me it was Branch used to do that motorcycle stance, and the craziest part is Branch had those ginormous legs. He didn't have to. That's just how he liked to pose.
Maybe his legs
I've
were
always
so big
thought
he couldn't put them together.
I've always, it's funny because I the benefit and not so great benefit of being gone for a long time, then coming back and seeing these differences. And before I exited, I was viewed that leg position as a smaller man. Like, even though Branch was a large human, he was a small, large human in that regard, right? You put him next to a Jay, you put him next to a Ronnie, where they're just a structurally larger human dude. Like, even though he's got a lot of muscle on him, he's got to present himself to be bigger next to those guys.
Yeah.
And whereas Ronnie, dude, you look at Ronnie didn't point his toes out, bro. But his sweep relative to his waist and his shoulders was like phenomenal. Flex Wheeler. Here's the one thing that I was watching this thing the other day where someone was, talking about how Flex Wheeler had what's the deficiency where your muscles grow?
Myostatin.
Myostatin deficiency,
Acromegaly.
right? And I was like, what? Like, bro, if you knew Flex, dude, if you walk next to Flex right before everybody took their shit off, dude, he's like tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was not a large human. What they don't understand is his joint insertions were so small that he looked so bubbly that under the lights, he added 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And so, he didn't have to put his legs wide. Of course, in the proportion still, I'd compare that physique to any physique ever in the history. Like that guy proportion when he was on was just freaking crazy.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that, because it's interesting. I was posing because I'm starting to pose a lot too to get my body back. And the guy I'm in there posing, no, you need to, nowadays, like that's old school stuff. We spread your legs out. And I'm just like, bro, that looks like crap. Makes me look like a crab standing here. Right.
Yeah.
Just my opinion, but that's where I feel like it started, was when the littler guys were trying to, side by side compare and just making themselves appear. So when they're sitting here like this versus Ronnie sitting here like this with his in his front relaxed position, just it's an optical illusion they're trying to create.
That's a good point.
I think they're scared too. Like if they show up and do that, hey, you're the one out of all the competitors that's not posing like that. Are they going to get counted off? So I think, like when I was judging, we used to do workshops that we would tell, we would get up there and I would show, or someone else would show how the guys to pose. And at that time, we weren't doing that like whole toes out thing. And so someone's, they're copying other people, like you said, like Branch and all that, whoever started it. And certain coaches are posing their clients like that. So everybody's posing that way. You don't want to be the guy that's out like posing not that way, right? So I think that's a lot of the issues too. But there needs to be a clear set. The judges need to come out and say, hey, we want this, and explain why. This looks better, or we don't like this, or it needs to be more clear what these guys need to do, because I think we hear it from everybody. People do not like the look with the whole feet way out there. A lot of times the guys' legs aren't thick enough, and then they have a huge gap in the middle too, and it actually makes their legs look worse in a lot of instances too.
They used to do that at the Nationals. When they would have the athletes meeting at the Nationals, they would tell you, when we say quarter turn to the right, you're going to face forward. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that, or we're going to tell you to get off the stage. They used to say that to you. So, I mean, even back in Arnold's time, there was a judge, or whatever you want to call it, an expediter, standing on stage and correcting people, saying, nope, that's the position we want. Right there. Stand right there. And then the judges would judge, and they would do another one. Again, listen, you go with the flow, you go with what's the trend and all that stuff. But it's what Armon said. They're rewarding. When you see somebody getting rewarded, then you're going to emulate that person.
So,
yeah. I remember at Nationals, they were trying to implement from a quarter turn perspective, when you turn to the side. Do you remember, King, there for a little while, they were like, because we would offset our legs slightly, right, to probably emphasize our hamstrings. And then we would turn this way, right? And you flex that tricep and you push your chest over and you emphasize the small waist. And the judges at the lower levels were like a regional level, and they were like, nope, you have to turn completely sideways. They wanted to actually look at a true side profile of the guys.
Right.
And then, but the pros, they wouldn't make them do that, right? They didn't enforce the rule, but theoretically or technically, the objective of quarter turns was to see the density and the thickness of let's say the chest and upper back relative to that waist, and then how the quads and hams and butt is supposed to come out. And then we manipulate it. Of course we do, right? But that was the original intent behind the structure of the pose.
Yeah.
Well, on the local level, like when I judge, when the guys would twist too much, like you're talking about, we would have to tell them, hey, this isn't the pro stage. We don't want you posing like that. This is the state level. Yeah. When you do your quarter turns and you're to the side, you can twist a little bit, but put your tricep down. Don't do the whole like twist like the pro stage. Like once you get to the pro stage, posing is a little different, and we don't want to see that though on the local level. So we had to tell them, and that's what we were told by the head judge that to tell the guys like, hey, we want you posing this way. And I think it gets a little confusing. It's like, okay, why pose this way at the local level, and then if you turn pro, you have to change it where you're twisting? I just didn't really like that. I'm like, if you're going to pose a certain way, have it a certain way across the board, just kind of like how it goes from King. We talk about with nationals a lot with females. You go to a local show and the girl's a little too hard and they get counted down because they're too hard. But then you go to nationals and they want them harder. So it gets confusing for a lot of these athletes too. I think there should be the judging criteria straight across the board, whether it's local, national, or pro level. It's like once you get to a certain stage, I don't think posing should start changing up. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
it confuses a lot of people.
100%.
Yeah.
Here's my 2 cents. If Martin Fitzwater shows up at the Arnold Classic UK, he won't be 100% because he's not into it mentally. He'll just show up just to fulfill his contract obligations to IFBB. I don't think that's true at all. I think he's going to show up. I think he was going to try his hardest to not dial it in. I don't think Martin's the kind of guy.
I think the exact opposite. I think he's going to show up actually much better than he did at the Arnold because he's angry and he's going to make those adjustments. I think he should do it.
I know him personally, and he's not gonna just show up to show up. If he's out of condition, that's because they messed something up again, which they seem to do a lot lately with the coach he has. Maybe Martin needs a new coach and a new perspective because King, what did they hit it like one time? And all the other times.
Maybe he should stop the olive oil and the 1 scoop of Sumatran peanut butter mixed with a couple drops of, African
cereal stuff,
whatever the hell that they're doing, and go back to broccoli, chicken, and rice. Maybe that might be.
Well, a lot of guys doing Rice Krispies instead of white rice now, so they'll do Rice Krispies.
Real quick, Martin, I'm not making fun of you, man. You got to understand something because Martin takes these things. His skin is way too thin. I'm not making fun of you. We're not making fun. We're just saying that from what we've heard, from what the protocols that you followed, from the video clips, the YouTube clips that I saw, I don't think you should be doing all those crazy drinking olive oil and whatever the hell you do. I honestly, it's just my opinion. If you go back to old school rice, green vegetables, beef, chicken, I think your body will just come to life like this, just like Labrada's did. Okay? He was drinking all his meals and he was coming to every show looking like a water buffalo. He stopped. He started eating his food, and then next thing you know, he is getting better and better and better. Just my opinion, brother. That's it.
One of my clients, Jay, he contacted me. He's my client now. He contacted me before a show like 2 years ago. He was like, I think 3 weeks out. He's like, hey, what is your opinion of my physique? Do you think I'm not really happy with my coach right now? Do you think you could dial me in for the show? It was like 3 weeks out. And I said, to be honest, you look like you're maybe like 5-6 weeks out. And he thought I was just being an asshole to him. I'm like, no, dude, I'm telling you the truth because it is what it is. So eventually I said, dude, get through with that show. If you're not happy with your coach after that, then come hire me. I don't want to take you 3 weeks out from your current coach. That's just not something I want to do. I want to have the full, whatever, 16 weeks with you. So then we start prepping, and then I'm having him doing eating. He's like, oh, yeah, my coach had me eating bagels all the time at the end and this and this. And he goes, it's awesome that we're doing an old school style. I'm like, this isn't an old school style. Your coach just didn't know what he was doing and telling you, why are you eating bagels 3 weeks out? That's why you weren't in condition. And so he learned, and he had to learn. I was like, dude, you need to trust me. I've been doing this for 20 years. You need to trust me and what I'm telling you to do. And then when he saw the finished product, he's like, oh, okay, I get it. Like all these guys that you hear on the internet spewing like, well, you don't have to eat this. You can eat this, which is more tastier. And and you can enjoy yourself more on your diet. This is bodybuilding. You're fueling your body to look a certain way on stage. If you want to have all these tasty little treats and meals, bodybuilding's not for you because you got to eat what you got to eat to produce the best look on stage. Another classic guy had, he was like, well, my other coach had me eating like A, B, and C. I'm like, we can eat A, B, and C and still get in shape on stage, but you could be 10 to 20% better if you're eating these foods, like the normal foods that everybody should be eating. And that's the problem too. You got another coach saying, hey, this way is easier. Oh, I want it easier and to produce the same product, but it doesn't produce the same product on stage.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there was a little YouTube short or something. I don't know where I saw it, where Nick came out and he was talking about his program, and he ate 3 foods the entire prep. It was chicken, rice, and one other thing. I forget exactly what he said. And I thought, you know what? I can totally endorse that. I approach things from a very simplistic perspective as well. I stick to what works, and I just repeat, and then your body, it also becomes very predictable, because when you start adding things that you've never done, or whatever, dude, it is variables. My whole thing is to eliminate as much variability as possible so that we can do exactly what we know is going to work, and it's consistent.
Yeah.
You know why he said that, Chris? Because his previous coach that was helping him, I got his classic guy for a while. I was working for him for a while, and he was eating at night. They're eating Greek yogurt and pineapples and all this stuff. And I'm like, why are you eating Greek yogurt and pineapples at night for your last meal? And so Nick that was his coach. So Nick was doing all this funky stuff. And then when he got rid of that coach and started doing basic stuff, chicken rice, eat it 6 times a day, whatever, you're going to look at it. It's way better than doing all this weird stuff, like you said, and you don't know the outcome. Why? What is the? I'm like, I asked that client, okay, what is the reason you're eating Greek yogurt and pineapples for your last meal? I don't know. I still got in shit. I'm like, okay, you don't even know why you're doing it, because this guy's telling you to do it, and that was Nick's last coach. And then since he didn't do it all himself this time. I think Guy Cisternino, they said pretty much came out and said Guy Cisternino was his second set of eyes, which probably meant Guy is pretty much prepping him. But he's just asking Nick. They're communicating back and forth, which a client and coach should do anyways. So
yeah.
This guy says, honestly, Mofada winning the seat was interesting. He seems to be the only top pro who still trains calves and legs to look so balanced because of it. Yeah, he has calves. We see a lot of guys with no calves anymore. We talked about the other episode. A lot of them are atrophying because I believe they're growing too fast, and they're compressing things in their lower back and spine, and the calves are disappearing. So there's no muscle there to be grown because the nerve's not firing to the calves. So
calves also pure genetic muscle. So it either have it or to get it.
Yeah, that's true, man. I mean,
we'll do a few more. Go ahead.
No, just the calves. It's like we saw that in the 90s. The best bodybuilder, the ones that we talk about being the best bodybuilders in history, fundamentally, besides Dorian. Dorian had phenomenal calves, but Ronnie, not the greatest, man. And Flex Wheeler, certainly not the greatest. And it's like one of these. It's one of these like. For the bodybuilding fanatics, it's like it's an important element, but it can be overlooked for sure with everything else. I mean, barring that they're just little twigs, of course, but it's they're in the perfect world you would have them for sure.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is they're not judging it too. So you're not judges aren't telling people, hey, like used to you want the calves the size of your biceps, right? Kind of the same size,
right?
And a lot of guys don't have calves now. It's like, okay, I don't see guys training them as much either. They're not training them every other day or 3 times a week. Your calves can take a lot more pounding than other body parts. And so let's answer a few more questions and close it out. This guy said, what would happen if prize money for classic open interchange? That will never happen. But I guess more guys would try to do classic, right?
Yeah. Easy question to answer.
Yeah. Looks like Rafael Brando dropped Neil Heel. Listen, these guys switch coaches every freaking season, every year, right? Okay. Rafael's look wasn't the best at all, in my opinion. What are you guys' thoughts on that and dropping coach? First of all, him dropping Neil, and I have a story about Neil after that. Him dropping Neil, and then dropping coach. I mean, they use like within 5 years they use freaking 10 different coaches. They don't give that coach enough time to figure out their body, and they don't understand. Like, hey, we might not nail it the first time. It might take a few times to understand your body, and once we get it down, Neil has been coaching people for a long time. I'm sure he knows what he's doing, but you don't hit it one time and boom, they're gone to the next coach. Guys, thoughts?
Well, I mean, I famously changed, Coach. I was with Hani for a long time. We grew up together. And when I say that, I mean that in a very literal form. I mean, we were both very young in the beginning stages. As we learned, we grew together, we experimented together. And then a lot of it had to do with personality fit and the fact that we were close like brothers. Disengaged my ability to actually fucking believe him. And pardon my French, I lost faith because I knew where he got his information a lot of time, which is like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, I was there when you experiment on that. It's like, don't give me your expert advice here, right? And that dislocation forced me to go a different direction. So my point is with coaches, man, there's a lot to that process. It's not just results. It's the process that comes with it. Sometimes it's oil and water, man. You've got to be able to jive with this person. That's what Chris and I worked really well, because Chris respected what I had to say, right? And he would listen to me, whereas Hani was the exact opposite. And you've spoken about experiences with, like, that's just more of Hani's approach. Whatever, it works. Look, Hani's got more Mr. Olympia coaching tags than anybody, and so we can't deny that it worked, but it didn't work for everybody. There's for every person that he did well with, we can probably pull up 10 that it didn't, and not necessarily a thing with him. It's just that there's a lot of things that go into that bowl of soup, man.
But Chris, when you're also cherry picking guys and you're not taking clients on like Hani did, Hani wouldn't take a client on unless he thought he could make them win a show, turn pro, or do good in the pro ranks. He would also cherry pick too. So if you're cherry picking too, of course you're going to have the best of the best. Then you build that name. I'm the pro creator and I'm the best. Everybody's rushing to you, so you're going to be able to pick from. Hey, I get to pick from all these people. I'm going to pick the genetic, elite, Phil Heath, all the guys that he had. So it's a lot different. But I'm not discounting Hani. Hani knew his shit. He knew what he was doing. I'm not saying Hani knew what he didn't know what he was doing. He knew what he's doing. But like you said, his coaching was like, you're doing this. I don't care what you think about it. This is the way to do it and the only way to do it.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the benefits of being at the top, which Hani was for a long time because of who he had coached, right? That gives you the ability to be selective and to his credit in that regard, right? And look, I'm trying to be very very fair about that in that description. I mean, it's interesting, man. Of all the guys that I knew that worked with Chad, and there's all kinds of shitty things that people say about Chad or different things, right? And it's funny because it's none of the guys that actually worked really close to him, at least in my experience. Like, everybody still respects the guy. He knew what he was doing, and Chad's approach was one that was like, let's talk about that. He wasn't just coming in trying to throw his weight around per se. And he did have a true proven track record, obviously most notably being Ronnie, but nonetheless, dude, his reputation preceded that, and it gave him the ability to actually choose back then too. He was the freaking guy for a while.
Yes, he was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Chad is really good working with guys that are like the bigger boys, like 250, 260 plus, because it's very different working with like middleweight, light heavyweight, than working with like super heavyweight and above, the big boys. It's different. The food, it's different, dialing them in. Sometimes you got to start carving up a lot earlier. So there's a lot of different variables, and Chad's been around forever and he's still around. There was the suggestions like, who's he going to coach next? Because he had Rami, right? He had Rami looking great for the Olympia, I believe that he won. And so let's knock out a few of these questions. Sean Clarita dropped Boss of Outlaw and went to John Jewett and looks much better. Yeah, like King and I talked about it for a while. King, did we not say people are going to slowly start disappearing from Boss of Outlaw? And we're not saying he doesn't know what he's doing, but you get in a certain position where everybody's wanting to use you and you're having to turn down money because you physically, mentally just can't take on that many clients. And I think Chad got in that same position too, because I knew a lot of guys Chad worked with at the national level. And I'm like, oh, who's your coach? Chad Nichols. Oh, okay. I'm expecting them to peel off their thing and look amazing, and they're not in shape at all. It's just like, I think you come to that point where it's hard for the coach too. Like, okay,
Sure.
all these people are wanting to work with me. I want to help people, but where do you draw the line? And this is too many clients for me, and I can't take care of you. Maybe you should go somewhere else, but you're turning down money also. So a lot of these guys, you have to do it too because you love doing it too. You love coaching. You love, having people at their best. I don't think it's fair taking on people knowing that you can't give them 100% also.
Yep. Agreed.
All right. I liked Mo in Detroit, but wish his midsection was tighter for a guy that's not really a mass monster who should win on shape. It's disappointing that his stomach, I don't think his stomach was that bad at all.
Yeah, we need to talk about it, right?
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I mean, we're talking about Mo, who won, right, in Detroit. So, yeah, I mean, like the kid is, I mean, he's. What's interesting to me is, I actually, because I've never met the kid, and when I was looking at his physique presents to me like he's 5'6". I don't know if he does to you guys, but I had to look him up. He's 6 foot tall. Do you guys know that?
No.
Who?
Like
Mo?
Huh? Yeah.
He's 6 foot?
I looked it up earlier today. Maybe I'm wrong.
How tall is Wesley?
Wesley's like 6'2".
6'2", 6'3". Yeah, he's a tall man.
Yeah. I don't know. Mo doesn't look like he's 6 foot to me. He looks like he's about 5'9", 5'10".
Yeah.
Right. And it's interesting. Like I was trying to wrap my head around why he had this kind of like condensed look to him. Right. And I think that's actually what we're talking about with regard to when we had guys that were in the 5'10" to 6 foot range in the earlier era, they had I don't know what it is. A less condensed look. And so when they opened up and they posed, it was full, but it was a much more round and open physique. A lot of what we saw with Wesley, but fuller, right? A little larger. And that's why the two pairings at the end for me were like, man, this is really interesting because if you look at the actual size of the two men, like the size of their arms or size of their shoulder, they turn around, hit their back poses. Wesley's not less muscular than Mo was.
Yeah.
His legs look a little longer because it's a taller, it's probably 2 inches longer in his quad. So it's not as round, but arguably he's as muscular as Mo was, right? If you put 5 more pounds on Wesley, bro, he might be winning that open class.
Yeah. I agree.
I think you would have. I just looked at Mo. It said he's 5'7", so I don't know how accurate that is.
Dude, I'm completely wrong.
Yeah, I don't think he's 6 foot. He's around that 5'7", 5'8" range. But it says 5'7". But the height sometimes are mixed up. But I think he's one of the not short, but he's right in there in the 5'7", 5'8" range.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that makes sense then, right? Because I was trying to wrap my head around that.
This guy says, for me personally, the key with coaching, if I wanted a strict kind of mean Persian approach, I would become a doctor like my dad wanted. Okay. Would you say America is the best country to live in for bodybuilding? I would say so. You guys? Yeah. I mean, unless the drug aspect, in other countries you're getting.
That's what I was going to say, man. From what King told me on, access to some of the things that you need in Iran. I mean, bro, that'd be amazing.
I wouldn't leave the United States for any country ever. It's the best country in the world.
Yeah, amen to that for sure. But as far as access goes, I mean, it's funny. Back in the day, I remember, when one of my suppliers would get stuff from Romania. And like, I don't know why this one sticks out, but we would get propionate from Romania in the capsules. Right. And it was like, dude, those things were absolute gold. The amps. Yeah, they were gold. And it's like, I don't know why, man. Romanian probe. It was amazing. It just hit a different way, you know.
Yeah.
So
they have it's a pharmaceutical there. It's a pharmaceutical versus, I don't care how great you're making underground stuff, it's still someone's making it at their house. And I even tried the difference that people have a great setup at their house and whatever like that, and it's still just not going to be the same thing. Like one of this guy I've known forever. He lives in, I believe, in Algeria. Since the MySpace days, he was several years younger than me. He befriended me, and he asked me so many questions over the years, and I would answer all his questions. He was just kind of like a fan at the time. And then eventually he started his own coaching business, and all his clients look amazing. And I'm like, and he's like, we're going back and talking. He's like, man, I don't really know what I'm doing that well, but all my clients, the drugs here, we got, everything's straight. You can walk in the pharmacy, get whatever you want, top notch gear. So that does make a difference. And a lot of people think all these top pros, they're taking the best quality stuff possible. And they're not, because King, a couple guys we had on the show already, I've spoke to them about their sources, and they're not taking that great of stuff. They just have great genetics, and they're not taking the top of the top stuff like a lot of people think they are, or they should be, but a lot of them don't have access to it. They really don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, in one of the earlier podcasts we were talking about back in the day in my experience in Venice. Because, we all had the same guys ultimately, right? That we would go to at various times to get our things. And I, you would get a little bit of insight on what folks like Flex or Chris could get or would take, let's say, right? And bro, they would just, at the end of the day, they would just take what they could, right? Because at different times, different things were available. And then what they would produce out of it, you're like, this has nothing to do with the drugs, bro. It's all genetics. These guys, they're just amazing. They could probably take sugar water and look, a hell of a lot better than I could on a gram of gear,
Yeah. A lot of guys at Metroflex, they, coming out of Metroflex gym, they can't afford all the stuff to take. They just take some tests and, some shitty, GH they got for $100 a kit, and they look great. It's genetic.
Yeah, they're just following Ronnie out in the parking lot, hoping they pick up some scraps,
All right, so let's close this out. I mean, the talking points, like going into the Olympia, do you guys think there's too many athletes in the Olympia, like going into it? Is it the qualification criteria is, the athletes, there's just too many people going there? Do you think they need to cut back on the number of competitors in each class?
If you're qualified, you should be able to go.
Yeah, I agree.
So you got 60 guys in the classic. You okay with that? Or is it too much?
That means 60 shows, and each one was a winner?
Winner, or you go by points, however they made it there.
Yeah, I don't, and forgive me, I don't know the qualifications anymore. It used to be for pro qualifiers back in the day, King, it was like top 5, like New York Pro was top 5. There was a couple maybe smaller shows that were top 3, but that was generally how it was managed.
My understanding was if you win a pro show, you're qualified. That's what I thought.
Okay, so it's no longer top 5.
No, they've changed it up a lot. They've changed it up a lot because, they were doing points for a while, and then I think they changed it up again. So the thing now, stuff changes every year because they try to look at the previous year, like, okay, what worked and what didn't. And so things still change. So it's not the same exact thing every year. So I'm not exactly sure right now if it's just by winning a show or if it's points. We all know the Arnold's always invite, right? So Arnold's invite. So the Olympia, I think people are going to, and it's just for some people, they don't want to sit all day to just get to the open bodybuilders, which most people are there, there to see. But closing out, guys, you guys got anything?
Nope.
No, man.
Last words.
Be good, be strong, stay healthy, be safe. That's it.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I'll second that.
Yeah, this guy says way too many. It's a clown show. The whole week is so disorganized. Way I figure is Jake Wood owes a lot of us money back on how bad of fan experience it was last year. Okay. Well, you get all different kinds of thoughts about the show.
But dude, I mean, honestly,
you're not going to make everybody happy.
Yeah, we were bitching about how long it took 20 years ago. And I mean, it's funny because depending on who you're there to see or support, it's like all the other stuff is just in the way. You know, it's like, it's funny. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. All right, guys. Great show today. I'm off to renting a car.
Appreciate you guys.
Driving to Galveston, get on vacation.
Be safe, man.
Peace.
Take care, guys. Be good.
You guys. All right.
All right,
Bye-bye.
guys. Bye.